Hyun-woo walked through the massive halls of the Galactic Council Station. His footsteps echoed in the empty corridors. Most alien delegates had already left after the monthly trade meeting. The meeting had lasted only 20 minutes. And Earth got the same scraps as always. The Corvan ambassador had barely looked at him when announcing Earth's new mining rights. Sector 47B, the tall, gray-skinned alien had said. Dead asteroids only. No planets. The other delegates nodded in agreement. Earth was lucky to get anything at all. Hyun-woo had been representing humanity for 3 years now. Every month was the same. The powerful species divided up the good trade routes, the rich mining systems, and the valuable research contracts. Earth got what was left over, if anything was left over. He stopped at the observation deck and looked out at the stars. Somewhere, out there was Earth, a small blue planet that most of the galaxy considered barely worth mentioning. The Nexari Collective had the best technology. The Corvan Empire controlled the strongest military forces. The Velthron Trade Federation owned the most profitable business routes. And Earth sold basic food and provided cheap labor. Another successful meeting, Ambassador? Hyun-woo turned around. The Nexari delegate, Veltar, stood behind him. The alien's 4 arms moved in what Hyun-woo had learned was their version of laughter. Very successful, Hyun-woo replied calmly. Earth appreciates the Council's generosity. Generosity? Veltar's translation device crackled. Your species should be grateful we allow you in the Council at all. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Your military is a joke. What do humans actually contribute to galactic civilization? Hyun-woo wanted to say many things. He wanted to point out that human farmers fed half the galaxy's colony worlds. He wanted to mention that human workers built most of the space stations everyone used. Instead, he smiled politely. We do our best to help where we can, he said. Veltar made another sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. Indeed. Well, enjoy your dead rocks, Ambassador. The alien walked away, its footsteps making clicking sounds on the metal floor. Meanwhile, on the edge of the Corvan military zone, Captain So-jin received an emergency signal. Her ship, the Sol Dawn, was one of Earth's few patrol vessels. It was old, slow, and barely armed. The Corvan Empire allowed it to patrol only the safest, most boring sectors of space. Captain, her communications officer, Tae-young, called, out. I'm getting a distress signal from the research vessel Nexari Excellence. They're caught in the void storms near the Kalos system. So-jin frowned. The void storms were dangerous energy fields that could tear apart any ship. Most captains avoided them completely. The Nexari had the best navigation systems in the galaxy. How did they get trapped? How many crew members? She asked. 43 scientists and crew, Tae-young replied. Their engines are damaged. They can't escape the storm field. So, Jin looked at her small crew. The Sol Dawn had only 12 people aboard. They were supposed to patrol shipping lanes, not rescue advanced alien vessels from dangerous space phenomena. Captain, her navigator, Young-soo, said quietly, the storm field is massive. Even the Corvan military won't go in there. Their computers can't calculate safe paths through the energy patterns. So Jin stared at the tactical display. The void storms looked like a swirling mass of angry red lines on the screen. The Nexari ship was a small dot trapped in the center. Every few seconds, lightning-like energy bolts flashed through the storm system. Plot a course, she said suddenly. Captain? Young-soo looked confused. The computers can't map the storm patterns. It's impossible to navigate safely. Don't use the computers, So-jin said. Just watch the storm movements, feel the rhythm of the energy flows. Plot a course based on what looks right. Young-soo stared at her like she had gone crazy. Captain, with respect, that's not how navigation works. We need precise calculations and— Trust me, So-jin interrupted. I've been flying ships since I was 16. Sometimes you have to go with your gut feeling. The Sol Dawn entered the edge of the void storm 20 minutes later. Energy bolts flashed all around them. The ship's hull groaned under the pressure. Alarms beeped constantly as the storm's electromagnetic fields interfered with their systems. But somehow, So-jin guided them through. She couldn't explain how she knew which way to turn or when to change speed. The path just felt right. When, Energy bolts flashed toward them. She instinctively knew where they would strike and moved the ship away. When the storm patterns shifted, she sensed the changes before the sensors detected them. "There," she said, pointing at the main screen. "The Nexari ship. The Excellence was badly damaged. Its hull was cracked, and several sections were completely dark. Emergency lights blinked weakly along its sides. Tae Young, open a channel," Sojin ordered. "Excellence, this is the Earth vessel Sol Dawn. We're here to help," a voice crackled through the static. "Sol Dawn, how did you get through? The storm field? Our navigation computers show no safe passage." "We found a way," Sojin replied. "Prepare for emergency docking." The rescue took 4 hours. Sojin's crew worked with the Nexari scientists to transfer the injured to the Sol Dawn's medical bay. The Nexari were amazed that such a small, primitive ship had reached them. "Your navigation system must be incredibly advanced," the Nexari captain Morden told Sojin. "Our computers analyzed the storm patterns for 6 hours and found no safe route." Sojin shrugged. "We don't have advanced navigation systems. We just followed the path that felt safest." Morden's 4 eyes blinked in confusion. "Felt safest? You navigated through a Class 7 void storm based on feelings?" "Pretty much," Sojin said. "Sometimes the instruments don't tell you everything you need to know." Back on Earth, Dr. Minho sat in his small laboratory at Seoul National University. He was working on research that most galactic scientists considered worthless. While other species focused on building better computers and more powerful engines, Minho studied patterns in seemingly random events. His latest project examined what he called probability mathematics. He had noticed that certain outcomes happened more often than pure chance would suggest. When he presented his findings to the Nexari Science Council, they had politely dismissed his work as primitive statistical analysis. But Minho kept studying. He collected data from across the galaxy, trading results, exploration discoveries, battle outcomes, and diplomatic negotiations. The patterns were there if you knew how to look for them. Human traders seemed to arrive at space stations just before supply shortages hit. Human explorers found valuable resources in sectors that alien surveys had marked as empty. Human soldiers survived battles that should have killed them. Human diplomats achieved peace agreements that seemed impossible. Other species called it luck. Minho suspected it was something else entirely. His computer beeped softly. A new data file had arrived from the Galactic Information Network, another lucky human success story. A small Earth patrol ship had somehow rescued a Nexari research vessel from a void storm that trapped ships with much better technology. Minho added the incident to his growing database. The pattern was becoming clearer, but he still couldn't explain what caused it. Humans weren't smarter than other species. Their technology wasn't better. Their training wasn't superior. So why did they succeed when others failed? Outside his laboratory window, Minho could see the lights of Seoul spreading toward the horizon. 6 billion humans lived on Earth, going about their daily lives, unaware that they might possess something the galaxy had never seen before. Something that could change everything. 3 months after the Nexari rescue, strange reports started reaching the Galactic Council. Human merchant Captain Dae-Hyun had arrived at Corvin Station 12 with a cargo hold full of medical supplies just hours before a plague outbreak hit the mining colonies. When asked how he knew to bring the medicine, Dae-Hyun shrugged and said he had a feeling there might be a demand for it. The Corvin Trade Inspector, Grixnall, filed a suspicious activity report. "No advance intelligence indicated a medical emergency," he wrote. Yet the human trader carried exactly the supplies needed in precisely the right quantities. This suggests access to classified information or insider knowledge of planned biological warfare. But there was no evidence of any secret intelligence network. Dae-Hyun's cargo manifest showed he had loaded the medical supplies on Earth 3 weeks earlier, long before anyone knew about the plague. Similar incidents happened across the galaxy. Human explorer Ye Jin discovered 3 new habitable worlds. In the Outer Rim, a region that comprehensive alien surveys had marked as completely barren. Her ship, the Busan Explorer, had followed what she called promising sensor readings that turned out to be equipment malfunctions. "The scanner was clearly broken," her engineer Kyung-ho explained to the Colonial Survey Board. "It kept pointing us toward empty space. But Captain Ye Jin insisted we investigate anyway. She said the emptiness felt wrong somehow. The first planet they found had vast freshwater oceans and fertile continents. The second had valuable mineral deposits near the surface. The third showed signs of ancient ruins from an unknown civilization. All three discoveries came from following faulty equipment and vague hunches. The Velthron Trade Federation opened an investigation. Human exploration success rates are statistically impossible, their chief analyst reported. They discover valuable resources at 12 times the galactic average, despite using inferior survey equipment. On the colony world New Busan, Administrator Tai Ho was reviewing supply schedules when he felt something wrong. He couldn't explain what bothered him, but the feeling grew stronger throughout the day. The geological sensors showed normal readings. The weather forecasts predicted calm conditions. Everything looked perfectly safe. But Tai Ho couldn't shake his unease. "We need to evacuate the settlement," he announced during the evening staff meeting. His deputy, Ji-won, looked confused. "Evacuate? Why? All our systems show green status." "I know," Taeho said, "but something feels dangerous. I can't explain it, but we need to move everyone to the emergency shelters in the mountains." "Sir, with respect, we can't evacuate 8,000 colonists because of a feeling," the security chief, Dong Wu, protested. "The Galactic Colonial Authority requires specific threat assessments for evacuation orders." Taeho stood up and walked to the window. Outside, New Busan looked peaceful. Families were walking through the parks. Children played in the streets. Everything seemed normal. "Put out a voluntary evacuation notice," he said finally. "Tell people we're conducting emergency shelter drills. Transport anyone who wants to go to the mountain facilities." About half the colonists took advantage of the drill. Many thought Administrator Taeho was being overly cautious, but they respected his judgment. By midnight, 4,000 people had moved to the emergency shelters. At 3:17 a.m., a massive earthquake struck New Busan. The underground fault that the geological sensors had completely missed shifted violently. Buildings collapsed throughout the settlement. The main power plant exploded. Toxic gases leaked from the industrial district. The 4,000 people in the mountain shelters survived. The 4,000 who stayed in the settlement faced a much more difficult night. Rescue teams worked for days to pull survivors from the rubble. Without Taiho's inexplicable warning, the death toll would have been catastrophic. The geological survey team was baffled. "Our instruments detected no seismic activity," their leader, Corvin scientist Vextar, reported. The fault line showed no stress indicators, no prior warning signs existed. The earthquake should have been completely unpredictable. But somehow, a human administrator had felt it coming. Meanwhile, in the disputed territories, Human Corporal Boram served with the 15th Joint Peacekeeping Force. The unit combined soldiers from 4 different species: humans, Corvins, Nexari, and Velthrons. Their mission was to patrol the border regions where several minor conflicts still flared. Corvin Lieutenant Commander Thakmor led the unit with military precision. He planned every patrol route using tactical computers and intelligence reports. His equipment could detect enemy movements from kilometers away. His analysis software predicted ambush locations with 94% accuracy, but Corporal Boram kept suggesting changes to the patrol routes. "Sir," she said during the morning briefing, "I think we should avoid the canyon pass today." Thakmor checked his tactical displays. "Negative, Corporal. Intelligence shows no enemy activity in that sector. The canyon provides excellent cover for our advance." "I understand, sir," Boram replied carefully, "but something about that area feels wrong today. Maybe we could take the longer route through the valley?" "Feelings are not tactical data, Corporal," Thakmor said firmly. "We follow the optimal route based on computer analysis." The patrol entered the canyon pass 2 hours later. Thakmor's sensors showed clear readings ahead. No heat signatures, no movement indicators, no electromagnetic emissions that might suggest hidden weapons. The ambush came from above. Enemy fighters had somehow masked their presence from the advanced Corvin detection equipment. They opened fire from the canyon walls, trapping the patrol in a crossfire. "How is this possible?" Thakmor shouted over the weapons fire. "The sensors detected nothing." Boram was already moving, seeming to anticipate where the next shots would come from. She directed the squad's movements with quick hand signals, leading them to cover positions that kept them safe from the enemy fire. "This way," she called, pointing to a narrow passage between the rocks. "They can't get good angles on us from there." "How do you know?" asked Nexari specialist Zilvin. "I can feel the shape of the battle," Boram replied, checking her weapon. "The enemy is moving to surround us, but they're nervous. They expected an easy ambush. If we move fast and stay unpredictable, we can break out." For the next hour, Boram seemed to read the battle like she was following a script. She knew when the enemy would advance and when they would retreat. She predicted their flanking movements before their own commanders gave the orders. She led the patrol through impossible defensive positions that should have been death traps, but somehow provided perfect cover. When reinforcements finally arrived, they found the patrol safe in a defensive position that tactical analysis later described as inexplicably optimal. Thakmore filed a detailed report that night. "Human soldier demonstrated impossible battle awareness," he wrote. "Predicted enemy movements with greater accuracy than advanced combat computers. Recommended tactical positions that exceeded our strategic planning capabilities. Request investigation into possible human access to classified intelligence networks." But there were no intelligence networks. Boram had simply trusted her instincts and somehow known exactly what to do. Back at the Galactic Council Station, reports like these were piling up on Ambassador Hyunwoo's desk. Human success stories from across the galaxy. Traders making impossible deals. Explorers finding hidden treasures. Colonists surviving unpredictable disasters. Soldiers winning hopeless battles. The other species were starting to notice. More importantly, they were starting to ask questions. Hyunwoo read through the latest intelligence summary. 17 statistically anomalous human achievements in the past month alone. Each one could be explained as luck or coincidence, but the pattern was becoming hard to ignore. His communication console beeped. A priority message from Earth. "Ambassador," the voice of Director Park from Earth's Colonial Ministry came through. "Clearly, we're seeing unusual interest in human activities from the major galactic powers. Corvin Military Intelligence has requested detailed personnel files for all humans serving in joint operations. The Nexari Science Council wants to interview our traders and explorers. The Velthron Federation is asking for economic data that goes back 50 years? Hyunwoo leaned back in his chair. "What do they suspect?" "We're not sure," Director Park replied. "But they're definitely noticing something. The questions are getting more specific and more urgent. I think we may be running out of time to fly under the radar." Outside his office window, the stars looked the same as always, but Hyunwoo had the growing feeling that everything was about to change. Dr. Minho's research laboratory had become much busier lately. The Nexari Science Council, which had dismissed his work just months earlier, now wanted to partner with him. Specifically, they wanted to understand what they called the human anomaly. Nexari scientist Zethai arrived on Earth with a team of researchers and equipment worth more than most planetary governments could afford. The tall, blue-skinned alien had 6 arms and 3 eyes, which made conversations interesting, but Minho found him surprisingly easy to work with. "Your species presents a fascinating puzzle," Zethai said, setting up quantum measurement devices in Minho's laboratory. Nexari computers can process billions of calculations per second, yet humans consistently achieve better practical results with no apparent computational assistance. Minho watched the alien scientists install their advanced equipment. "Maybe the problem is thinking that everything needs to be computed," he suggested. "Sometimes the answer is obvious if you just pay attention to the right things." "But what are the right things?" Zethai asked. "That is what we must discover." Their first joint experiment studied human trading patterns. They brought in merchant Captain Dae-hyun and asked him to explain how he chose his cargo and destinations. "It's not complicated," Dae-hyun explained, looking uncomfortable under the alien scientist's intense attention. "You learn to read the signs. The way people talk about supply shortages. The tone in their voices when they mention upcoming projects. The things they don't say when you ask about their needs." Zethai's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. "But our analysis shows you make optimal choices 89% of the time. The best Nexari trading computers achieve only 67% optimal outcomes, and they process complete market data for 17 sectors simultaneously." "Computers look at numbers," Dae-hyun said. I look at people. Numbers can lie. People usually don't, even when they think they are. The scientists recorded everything. They measured Dae-hyun's brain activity while he made trading decisions. They analyzed his eye movements, his breathing patterns, and his neural responses. The results were puzzling. His brain processes information in ways we have never observed, Zethai reported to Minho. He appears to perform millions of micro-calculations unconsciously, integrating sensory data, memory patterns, and predictive modeling at speeds that should be impossible for biological neural networks. Meanwhile, Captain So-jin received new orders from Earth Command. Instead of patrol duties, she was assigned to escort a Veltron diplomatic convoy through the pirate territories. The Veltrons had specifically requested human navigation assistance after hearing about the Nexari rescue. Tatati. Convoy consisted of 12 heavy transport ships carrying trade negotiators and valuable cargo. Velthron Admiral Kestha commanded the operation with typical efficiency. His fleet had the most advanced defensive systems, the best intelligence networks, and detailed tactical plans for every possible threat. Captain So-jin, Admiral Kestha, said during the pre-departure briefing, "Our intelligence indicates 7 potential pirate groups operating in the target region. We have mapped their typical attack patterns, identified their weapon capabilities, and calculated optimal defensive formations for each scenario." So-jin studied the tactical displays. The Velthron plans looked perfect on paper. Every contingency was covered. Every risk was calculated and minimized. "Admiral," she said carefully, "your analysis is very thorough, but I think we should take a different route." Kesatha's trading tendrils twitched with what So-jin had learned was mild irritation. "Captain, our computers have analyzed 14 million possible route combinations. The path we have chosen minimizes risk while maximizing travel efficiency." "I understand," So-jin replied, "but this route feels wrong to me. The pirates will expect us to take the safest path. Sometimes the dangerous route is actually safer because no one expects it." "Feelings are not strategic data," Kesatha said firmly. "We will follow the optimal route." The convoy entered the pirate territories 6 hours later. Admiral Kesatha's formation was perfect. His sensors detected everything within 100,000 kilometers. His defensive systems were ready for any attack pattern the pirates might use. The first ambush came exactly where the computers predicted it would. 3 pirate ships attacked from behind a small asteroid. The Veltron defenses worked perfectly, destroying the attackers within minutes. But So-jin felt uneasy. "Admiral, I think we should change course. This feels like a diversion." "Negative, Captain," Kestha replied. "Our sensors show clear space ahead. We maintain course and speed." The second ambush came from a different angle, using ships that had somehow masked their energy signatures. Again, the Veltron defenses worked, but the convoy was slowing down. "Admiral," So-jin called over the communication channel, "they're hurting us. Each attack pushes us further toward the Kalos Nebula. I think that's where the real trap is waiting." Kestha checked his tactical displays. "Impossible. Our intelligence shows no significant pirate presence in the nebula. The environment is too dangerous for sustained operations." But So-jin was already moving her ship out of formation. "Sol Dawn to convoy. I'm detecting massive energy signatures hidden in the nebula. At least 50 ships waiting in ambush formation. Our sensors detect nothing," Kesatha insisted. "Trust me," So-jin said. "Change course now, or we'll lose the entire convoy." For a moment, the channel was silent. Then Kesatha's voice came through, tight with concern. "All ships, emergency course change. Follow the Sol Dawn." They discovered later that over 200 pirate ships had been waiting in the nebula, using its electromagnetic interference to hide their presence. The ambush would have destroyed the entire convoy. The Velthron sensors, despite their advanced technology, had completely missed the trap. But somehow, So-jin had felt it waiting for them. Back on Earth, negotiator Ji-hai was achieving the impossible. The Corvan-Zelian peace talks had been deadlocked for months. 2 species that had been fighting for decades couldn't agree on basic territorial boundaries, much less a comprehensive peace treaty. The Corvan delegation was led by War Commander Thekvar, a veteran of 43 battles who trusted only military solutions. The Zelian representatives were headed by prime theorist Zelmon, whose species valued logical analysis above all else. Every previous negotiator had failed. The cultural differences were too great, the historical grievances too deep, the competing interests too complex. But Ji-Hai seemed to understand both sides in ways that surprised everyone, including herself. "War Commander," she said during one session, "your people value strength and honor above all else. But what is more honorable, winning a war or choosing not to fight when fighting would be wasteful?" Thekvar's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "The Xelians aren't challenging Corvan military superiority," Ji-Hai continued. "They're offering to be your allies instead of your enemies. Wouldn't it be more strategically valuable to have them working with you rather than against you?" Before Thekvar could respond, Ji-Hai turned to the Xelian delegation. "Prime Theorist, your analysis shows that continued conflict will cost both species tremendous resources. But your calculations assume the Corvans are simply aggressive. What if their aggression comes from a need to feel secure? What if we can address that need without territorial concessions?" Zelmon's crystalline features shifted into what might have been surprise. "Continue." "The Corvans need to feel strong," Ji-Hai explained. "The Xelians need to feel safe. Those aren't contradictory goals. A mutual defense alliance gives the Corvans a chance to use their military strength to protect both species. It gives the Xelians security without the cost of maintaining their own large military." The negotiations continued for 3 days. Ji-Hai seemed to know exactly when to push and when to step back. She sensed when delegates were about to lose their tempers and diffuse tensions before they exploded. She recognized when concessions were possible and when positions were fixed. Other diplomats called it intuition. Ji-Hai called it paying attention. She watched facial expressions, listened to voice tones, and noticed small changes in body language that revealed what people really thought. The peace treaty was signed on a Thursday morning. Both sides were amazed at how reasonable the final agreement seemed. War Commander Thekvar actually thanked Ji-Hai for helping his people avoid an unnecessary war. Prime Theorist Zelmon commended her for finding logical solutions to emotional problems. But the other diplomats were puzzled. "How did you know what they really wanted?" the Nexari observer asked. "I listened to what they didn't say," Ji-Hai replied. "People often tell you their real feelings without meaning to." Dr. Minho was collecting all these reports with growing excitement. The pattern was becoming clearer with each new data point. Humans weren't just lucky, they were processing information in ways that no other species could match. "Zethai," he said to his Nexari partner, "I think I understand what's happening." The alien scientist looked up from his quantum measurement devices. "Explain." "Every human success story involves the same thing," Minho said, pointing at his data displays. "They're all making decisions based on incomplete information, but their decisions turn out to be correct anyway. It's like they're seeing patterns that our instruments can't detect." "But what patterns?" Zethai asked. Minho stared at the data for a long. Dr. Minho's breakthrough came on a rainy Tuesday evening in Seoul. He had been working with Zethai for 6 months, studying human decision-making patterns across hundreds of cases. The data was overwhelming, but the answer had been hiding in plain sight. "Look at this," Minho said, pointing at his quantum measurement displays. "Every time a human makes one of these intuitive decisions, their brain activity shows micro-fluctuations in the quantum field sensors." Zethai leaned closer with all 3 eyes. "Those fluctuations are incredibly subtle. Our most sensitive equipment can barely detect them." "But they're there," Minho insisted. "And they happen just before the human makes their decision. It's like they're unconsciously reading quantum probability fields." The implications were staggering. Quantum probability fields determined the likelihood of any event occurring. They were the universe's way of deciding what was possible and what wasn't. Most species needed massive supercomputers to calculate even basic probability outcomes. But humans seemed to be doing it naturally, without even realizing it. "We need to test this theory," Zethai said. "If humans can actually perceive probability fields, it would explain everything. Their trading success, their exploration discoveries, their survival rates in dangerous situations. They designed a series of experiments using volunteers from across Earth. The results confirmed their hypothesis. In ways that amazed even Minho, human test subjects could predict random number sequences with 78% accuracy. They could identify which of several sealed containers held valuable objects without opening them. They could choose the safest path through dangerous terrain without maps or sensors. Most remarkably, they did it all unconsciously. When asked to explain their choices, the test subjects gave vague answers about feelings and hunches. They had no idea they were performing calculations that would challenge the galaxy's most advanced computers. Their evolution on Earth explains everything, Minho told ZHY as they reviewed the data. Other species developed on stable worlds with predictable environments. Humans evolved on a planet that tried to kill them constantly. Earth's history was a catalog of disasters. Ice ages that lasted thousands of years, volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun, asteroid impacts that wiped out entire species, massive climate changes that happened in just decades. Humans who could sense danger survived, Minho continued. Those who could predict weather patterns found food. Those who could feel when situations were about to turn bad avoided death. After millions of years, these abilities became instinctive. ZHY was excited in the way that only scientists could be when they discovered something completely new. We must publish this research immediately. The galactic scientific community needs to understand what we have found. But Minho hesitated. Maybe we should be careful about this. If the major powers learn that humans can naturally do what their supercomputers struggle with, how do you think they'll react? They will want to study us, ZHY said. They will want to understand how this ability works. Or they'll want to control us, Minho replied quietly. Or eliminate us as a threat. The research was published 3 weeks later in the Galactic Science Journal. The title was simple: Quantum Probability Perception in Human Neural Networks, an analysis of intuitive decision-making patterns. The reaction was immediate and intense. Within hours, Admiral Kwan received communication requests from every major galactic power. The Corvan Empire wanted to know if humans had been hiding military capabilities. The Nexari Collective demanded access to human brain scans. The Velthron Trade Federation asked for economic data going back centuries. They're not asking for partnerships, Admiral Kwan told President Nara during an emergency cabinet meeting. They're demanding explanations. Some of them sound almost accusatory. President Nara looked at the intelligence reports spread across her desk. Corvan battle fleets were conducting exercises near human space. Nexari research ships were requesting permission to study human colonies. Velthron economic analysts were reviewing every trade deal humans had made for the past 50 years. What exactly are they afraid of? She asked. That we've been lying to them, Admiral Kwan replied. That Earth isn't really a backwater planet. That we've been playing weak while secretly possessing abilities that could threaten their dominance. The truth was more complex. For centuries, the major galactic powers had based their superiority on technology, military strength, and economic control. The idea that a primitive species might have natural abilities they couldn't match was deeply unsettling. Ambassador. Hyunwoo found himself facing increasingly hostile questions at the Galactic Council. The monthly trade meeting had become an interrogation session. How long has your species possessed these abilities? Demanded Corvan General Voxtar. We don't possess any special abilities, Hyunwoo replied calmly. Dr. Minho's research simply explains why humans sometimes make good decisions under pressure. Good decisions? The Velthron Trade Minister, Colvin, waved his trading tendrils aggressively. Your merchants have achieved profit margins that our economists considered mathematically impossible. That goes far beyond good decisions. Nexari Science Director Morthul spoke next. Our analysis of human exploration records shows discovery rates that exceed random chance by factors of thousands. Either your species has access to advanced survey technology you haven't shared, or you possess capabilities that fundamentally alter the balance of galactic power. Hyunwoo looked around the council chamber. Representatives from dozens of species stared at him with expressions ranging from suspicion to barely controlled fear. We're the same humans we've always been, he said simply. Nothing has changed except your understanding of how we make decisions. But that wasn't entirely true, and everyone in the room knew it. Understanding changed everything. The revelation explained decades of human luck, Why human traders always seemed to be in the right place at the right time. Why human explorers found resources in empty sectors. Why human soldiers survived battles that should have killed them. Why human diplomats achieved peace agreements. That seemed impossible. It wasn't luck. It was an evolutionary advantage that no other species possessed. Captain So Jin learned about the controversy when she returned from another successful mission. Her ship had guided a joint exploration fleet through an unstable asteroid field, finding safe passage where computer calculations showed none existed. "Captain," her communications officer Tae-young told her, "we're receiving priority messages. From Earth Command. Something about Dr. Minho's research causing diplomatic problems." Sojin read the briefing reports with growing concern. The galaxy's major powers were demanding answers about human capabilities. Some were offering alliance proposals that sounded more like ultimatums. Others were making barely veiled threats. They're scared, she realized. They've built their power on having the best technology and the smartest computers. Now they're learning that humans can outperform their best systems using nothing but instinct. Young-Soo looked up from his navigation console. "What does this mean for us, Captain?" "It means everything changes," So-jin replied. "We can't pretend to be harmless anymore. They know what we can do." The shift in galactic politics was rapid and dramatic. Species that had ignored Earth for centuries suddenly wanted to negotiate trade agreements. Military alliances that had excluded humans began offering membership. Research partnerships that had dismissed human science now sought human participation. But the offers came with conditions. The Corvin Empire wanted human military advisors, but they also wanted oversight of human colonies. The Nexari Collective offered advanced technology, but they demanded access to human research facilities. The Velthron Federation proposed profitable trade deals, but they insisted on Velthron observers in human space. "They want to control us," Admiral Kwan told President Nara. "They're offering partnerships, but what they really want is to make sure we never become a threat to their dominance." President Nara stared out the window of her office at the lights of New Seoul. Somewhere out there, 6 billion humans were going about their daily lives, most of them unaware that their species had just become one of the most important in the galaxy. "What about the species that don't want to partner with us?" she asked. Admiral Kwan's expression was grim. "Intelligence reports suggest that several minor powers are forming a coalition. They call themselves the Purifier Alliance. Their basic position is that human abilities represent a dangerous anomaly that threatens the natural order of galactic civilization." "And their solution?" "Elimination," Admiral Kwan said quietly. "They believe humans should be removed from the galaxy before our abilities spread or evolve further." President Nara felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. For centuries, Earth had been ignored because it was weak and unimportant. Now it was attracting attention because it was potentially powerful. She wasn't sure which situation was more dangerous. 6 months after Dr. Minho's research became public, the galaxy had split into 3 camps. The first group wanted to partner with humanity, hoping to benefit from human abilities while keeping them under control. The second group wanted to study humans, believing they could replicate or enhance the quantum probability perception through technology. The third group wanted humans eliminated entirely. The Purifier Alliance had grown from a handful of minor species to a coalition of over 30 worlds. Their leader, Zealot Prime Krikstal of the Hegemony States, gave speeches across the galaxy about the human contamination of natural galactic order. For millions of years, Krikstal declared at rallies, civilization has advanced through technology, intelligence, and strength. Now a primitive species claims to possess abilities that bypass these foundations entirely. This cannot be allowed to continue. President Nara watched the intelligence reports with growing alarm. The Purifier Alliance was building a massive military fleet. Weapons factories on their worlds were working at maximum capacity. Their propaganda broadcasts reached billions of beings across the galaxy. "They're not just talking about containment anymore," Admiral Kwan reported during the daily security briefing. "The latest intercepts suggest they're planning a preemptive strike to eliminate what they call the human anomaly before it can spread." "Spread?" President Nara asked. "What do they think we're going to do, infect other species with probability perception?" Some of their scientists believe human abilities might be transmissible through genetic engineering or neural implants, Admiral Kwan explained. Others worry that humans will use their abilities to gradually take over galactic civilization. The Alliance propaganda claims we're an existential threat to the natural order. Meanwhile, Captain So-Jin had been promoted to Admiral and given command of humanity's first deep space exploration fleet. Her mission was to survey the galactic core, a region considered too dangerous for conventional navigation. The massive black hole at the galaxy's center created gravitational anomalies, radiation storms, and space-time distortions that had defeated every previous expedition. Admiral, her science officer, Dr. Jun Ho, reported as they approached the outer edge of the core region. We're detecting gravitational waves that change pattern every few minutes. The computer models show no stable passage routes. So-Jin studied the sensor displays. The galactic core looked like a swirling nightmare of deadly forces. Radiation levels that could kill crews in seconds. Gravity fields that could tear ships apart. Time distortions that could trap vessels in temporal loops. But as she watched the patterns, something felt familiar. "It's not random," she said suddenly. "The gravitational waves, the radiation bursts, the time distortions, they're following a rhythm, like a massive, complex dance." "Admiral?" Dr. Jun Ho looked confused. "Our analysis shows completely chaotic phenomena." "Trust me," So-Jin said. "Plot a course that follows the natural flow of the distortions. Don't fight the forces, work with them." Her navigator, Commander Sung-min, stared at her in disbelief. "Admiral, that's impossible. The forces are too unpredictable. We could be crushed, irradiated, or lost in temporal displacement." "Or we could ride the wave," So-Jin replied. "Sometimes the most dangerous path is the safest one because no one expects it to work." The exploration fleet entered the galactic core 3 days later. So-Jin guided them through passages that shouldn't have existed, using gravitational forces that should have been destructive as highways through space. When radiation storms threatened to overwhelm their shields, she found pockets of calm space hidden in the chaos. When time distortions tried to trap them, she navigated the fleet through temporal currents that carried them safely forward. Within 2 weeks, they had mapped stable routes through areas that had remained impassable for millions of years. The discoveries were extraordinary: ancient alien structures older than galactic civilization, energy phenomena that could revolutionize power generation, and resources that could supply the entire galaxy for centuries. "How is this possible?" Dr. Jun Ho asked as they surveyed their third major discovery. "Every expedition that tried to explore this region was destroyed or lost." "They tried to fight the chaos," So-Jin explained. "We learned to dance with it instead." Back on Earth, engineer Subin was revolutionizing spaceship design using principles that defied conventional physics. Her ships looked wrong to alien engineers. The hull configurations violated standard structural calculations. The engine placements ignored optimal thrust vector arrangements. The power distribution systems seemed to court catastrophic failure. But somehow her ships worked better than anything else in the galaxy. "I don't design ships," Subin explained to a group of fascinated Nexari engineers. "I listen to them. Every ship wants to be built a certain way. The materials have preferences. The energy flows have natural patterns. I just pay attention to what they're telling me." The Nexari chief engineer, Velkoth, examined Subin's latest design with all 4 arms. "These stress calculations show the hull should crack under normal acceleration. The engine positioning creates harmonic resonances that should tear the ship apart. Yet our tests confirm it performs 340% better than comparable vessels." "Math is useful," Subin said, "but it's not everything. Sometimes you have to feel how the forces want to move." Her ships were flying throughout human space now, achieving speeds and efficiency ratings that amazed other species. More importantly, they were incredibly safe. Despite their impossible designs, Subin's ships had the lowest accident rates in the galaxy. The Purifier Alliance watched these developments with growing alarm. Human abilities weren't just unusual, they were spreading to every field of endeavor. Human traders dominated markets, human explorers found resources everywhere. They looked. Human engineers built impossible machines, human diplomats solved unsolvable problems. They represent a fundamental threat to the natural order, Zealot Prime Crixtal announced in his latest broadcast. If allowed to continue, humans will remake galactic civilization in their image. Traditional values of logic, technology, and measurable progress will be replaced by chaos, intuition, and impossible claims of sensing invisible forces. The Alliance began their attack 3 months later. Over 800 ships from 33 different species converged on the Sol system. Their strategy was simple: destroy Earth and the major human colonies before human abilities could spread further. "They're coming," Admiral Kwan informed President Nara during an emergency session. "Our scouts detected the Alliance fleet 6 hours ago. They'll reach Earth in approximately 18 hours. President Nara looked at the tactical displays showing the approaching fleet. Earth's defenses included 47 ships, mostly converted civilian vessels with basic weapons. The orbital defense stations were decades old. The planetary shields could handle minor attacks but wouldn't stop a determined assault. "How many people can we evacuate?" she asked. "Maybe 2 million if we use every available transport," Admiral Kwan replied. "But the Alliance fleet will intercept any evacuation attempt. They're not just planning to attack Earth. They want to eliminate humanity entirely." "What about requesting help from our allies?" "The Corvan Empire is considering our request," Admiral Kwan said bitterly. "The Nexari Collective is analyzing the situation. The Velthron Federation thinks military intervention would be premature. None of them want to fight a 33-species alliance to protect us." President Nara stood up and walked to the window. Outside, people were going about their normal lives, unaware that their species faced extinction within a day. "Contact all ship commanders," she said finally. "Tell them to prepare for battle. We may not have the numbers or the technology, but we have something the Alliance doesn't expect." "What's that?" Admiral Kwan asked. "We have the ability to make the impossible look easy," President Nara replied. "And we're about to prove that. Being underestimated is the best advantage you can have." Commander Dong Jun took command of Earth's defense fleet 12 hours before the Purifier Alliance arrived. His 47 ships looked pathetic compared to the 800 enemy vessels approaching the Sol system. Most of his captains had never fought in a real battle. Their ships were old, slow, and barely armed. But Dong Jun had learned something important during his years serving with alien fleets. When humans stopped thinking and started trusting their instincts, impossible things became possible. "All ships," he broadcast to the fleet, "forget everything you learned about standard battle tactics. Forget computer targeting systems. Forget formation protocols. Trust your gut feelings about where to go and when to shoot." Captain Hai Jung of the destroyer Sol responded first. "Commander, with respect, that doesn't sound like a battle plan." "It's not," Dong Jun replied. "Battle plans assume you can predict what will happen. Today we're going to make things happen that can't be predicted." The Alliance fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Zealot Prime Crixtal commanded from his flagship, the Purifier's Hammer, a massive dreadnought armed with weapons that could crack planets. 800 ships arranged themselves in textbook assault patterns, their computers calculating optimal attack vectors and target priorities. "This will be over quickly," Crixtal announced to his commanders. "The humans have no significant military capability. We will eliminate them efficiently and move on to the colonies." The battle began when the Alliance fleet opened fire at maximum range. Thousands of energy beams and missile salvos filled space with deadly light. Any conventional defense would have been overwhelmed instantly. But the human ships didn't fight. Conventionally, instead of maintaining formation, they scattered in patterns that looked completely random. Instead of following predictable evasion protocols, each ship moved according to its captain's instincts. The result was beautiful and terrifying chaos that no computer could analyze or predict. Captain Hye Jung found herself diving toward an Alliance battlecruiser at an angle that should have been suicide. Energy beams flashed past her ship so close that her hull sensors screamed warnings. But somehow every shot missed by centimeters. "How are they doing this?" the Alliance gunnery officer demanded. "Our targeting computers have perfect locks, but nothing is hitting." "The humans are moving unpredictably," his commander replied. "Adjust firing patterns to compensate for random evasion." But it wasn't random. Captain Hye Jung could feel the rhythm of the battle flowing around her ship. She knew when the enemy weapons would fire and where they would aim. She sensed weak points in the Alliance formation before her sensors detected them. When she fired her own weapons, she aimed not at where the enemy ships were, but where they would be when her shots arrived. The same thing was happening throughout the human fleet. 47 ships moved like they were part of a single organism, each captain responding to instincts that told them exactly where to be and when to strike. Commander Dongjun watched the tactical display with amazement. His ships were outnumbered 17-1, but the Alliance was losing vessels faster than the humans. Enemy shots kept missing by impossible margins. Human weapons found target weak points that shouldn't have been detectable. The battle flow was turning in humanity's favor through sheer impossibility. "Sir," his tactical officer, Lieutenant Ko, reported, "Alliance formation is breaking down. They're trying to adapt to our movement patterns, but every time they adjust, we change the pattern again." "We're not changing anything," Dongjun realized. "We're just responding to what feels right moment by moment. They can't predict it because we're not planning it. But the real demonstration of human capability came when the battle shifted to the surface of Earth itself. Colonel Jin Ah commanded the ground defense of Seoul when Alliance dropships broke through the orbital fighting. Her Marine unit was surrounded by enemy forces with superior numbers, better weapons, and complete air support. By every military analysis, her unit should have been eliminated within minutes. Instead, something extraordinary happened. "Listen to me carefully," Jinnah told her Marines as enemy forces closed in around them. "Stop thinking about tactics and strategy. Stop worrying about odds and firepower. Just focus on staying alive and helping each other. Trust your instincts completely." What followed could only be described as a cascade of beneficial coincidences. Enemy weapons malfunctioned at crucial moments. Structural supports collapsed just as Alliance troops moved beneath them. Communications interference disrupted enemy coordination at precisely the right times. Supply drops landed exactly where the Marines needed them most. Private Su Young found herself in perfect cover when a building wall collapsed, creating a defensive position that protected her entire squad. Sergeant Minwook's ammunition ran out just as he discovered a cache of Alliance weapons that had been abandoned by fleeing enemies. Corporal Yesol called for artillery support at the exact moment when Alliance reinforcements were clustered in the optimal target zone. "This is impossible," the Alliance ground commander reported to his flagship. "Human resistance should have collapsed hours ago. Instead, they're achieving tactical victories that defy analysis. Our troops report that everything that can go wrong is going wrong, while everything that can help the humans is happening exactly when they need it." Dr. Minho, watching the battle from his laboratory, finally understood what was really happening. Humans weren't just perceiving probability fields. Under extreme stress, working together, trusting their instincts completely, they were actually influencing those fields. "Zed-Hai," he called to his Nexari partner, "look at these quantum measurements. Human brain activity is spiking across the entire planet. They're not just reading probability anymore. They're reshaping it." The alien scientist stared at the data displays with all three eyes. Impossible. Conscious beings cannot alter quantum probability fields through mental activity alone. "Apparently they can," Minho replied, "if they're human and they believe completely in what they're doing." The battle's turning point came when Admiral So-Jin returned from the Galactic Core with her exploration fleet. The Purifier Alliance had expected to face only Earth's small defense force. They hadn't planned on dealing with ships that could navigate impossibly dangerous routes and arrive exactly when needed. "Alliance fleet," So-Jin broadcast as her ships dropped out of hyperspace behind the enemy formation. "You've made a serious mistake. You attacked our home." The exploration fleet had learned to work together during their time in the Galactic Core. They moved with perfect coordination, each ship captain knowing instinctively where the others would be and what they would do. Together, they were more than the sum of their parts. The Alliance fleet found itself caught between two impossible forces. The defense fleet continued its unpredictable dance, avoiding destruction while dealing devastating damage. The exploration fleet struck from behind with precision that defied conventional targeting systems. Zealot Prime Krixtall watched his overwhelming advantage dissolve into chaos and defeat. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "We have superior numbers, better technology, advanced tactical systems. We should be winning." "The humans are fighting like the universe itself is on their side," his tactical officer reported. "Every random chance favors them." Every unlikely outcome works in their favor. It's as if reality is biased toward their success. The Alliance fleet began to retreat after losing over 300 ships. They had come to eliminate what they saw as an anomalous threat to galactic order. Instead, they discovered that humans represented something entirely new, a species that could work with the universe's fundamental forces instead of fighting against them. As the last Alliance ships fled toward hyperspace, President Nara addressed the galaxy from her office in Seoul. Today, 33 species tried to destroy humanity because they feared our differences, she said. They failed not because we're stronger or smarter, but because we understand something they don't. The universe isn't our enemy to be conquered through technology and force. It's our partner, waiting for us to learn how to dance with it. The reaction across the galaxy was immediate and profound. Species that had remained neutral during the attack now sought diplomatic contact with Earth. The major powers that had hesitated to help humanity during the crisis now offered full alliance agreements. More importantly, the galaxy's understanding of what was possible had fundamentally changed. Ambassador Hyun-woo found himself fielding requests from hundreds of species who wanted to learn human techniques. Not to copy them, but to understand how they might develop their own unique relationships with the universe's underlying forces. We're not asking you to become like us, he told the reformed Galactic Council. We're suggesting that every species might have undiscovered abilities that could benefit everyone. Perhaps the universe is more cooperative than we've always assumed. 5 years later, human advisors served throughout galactic civilization. Human intuition guided trade negotiations, scientific research, exploration missions, and diplomatic solutions. What had once been dismissed as primitive luck was now recognized as the most sophisticated form of intelligence ever discovered. Captain So-jin, now an admiral commanding the Galactic Rim expedition, smiled as her fleet prepared to fin